This first story takes place in high school. At the time, I was in grade 10 and she was in grade 12, so there was a 2-year age gap. So at this time, it did not matter how she looked. She could look like Shrek, look like a lagoon monster. Because of the age gap, I felt like Jesus. So one summer, she asked me to come over to her house, and my horny ass was excited to go. There was only one issue. My parents treated the house like a jail cell, so after dark and the doors are locked, the alarm is on, you were stuck and not going anywhere. You could only leave if you knew the code, and at the time I did not know the code. Well, besides that main issue, there was a couple other issues. The first problem was the door was very noisy. It was a bit old, so once you open it, it makes a huge creaking noise, so that would be a first red flag. The second red flag is once you open the door, there's a beep. So it's a very loud beep. So those two elements, I'm like, this is way too risky. So I'm thinking about some other approaches. So there's only really one approach, was the window. So I decided to do the Ferris Bueller approach. So I added some stuffed animals under my sheets to give the illusion that I was there. So I went to the window to see how high this jump, to see if it's actually worth the mission. I live in a 2-story house, so this isn't like the movies where they jump down into some bushes and they're having a good time. This is some serious business. So I can literally jump and break my legs. Let's pause for a moment. Let's say I do break my legs. My parents would be like, "What are you doing out here?" I'll just be like, "I just wanted to get some coochie." Well, yeah, back to the story. I'm young, wild, and free, so I'm thinking, yeah, let's do this. So I've seen Mission Impossible a couple of times, and the main protagonist does a tuck and roll from some great heights, and they're fine. So I'm thinking, all right, this can be the approach. So I get everything ready. I get to the edge of the window. I'm thinking, am I about to jump out the window? This is pretty serious, because if I do jump, I'm stuck outside for at least a couple of hours until my parents leave. Eventually, I'm just like, all right, go time. Let's do this. I get to the edge of the window. I do my Tom Cruise tuck and roll, and I start running right away from all the adrenaline. A few seconds later, I stopped running just to do a quick check, make sure my limbs are still intact. I'm just like, wow, this actually worked. So as I get to her house, I kind of slow down. I can't be there, getting there out of breath. I'll be a huge red flag. She'll be like, "What's wrong with you?" I'll be like, "Oh, I ran here. Gotta make sure I'm still a cool guy." I get to her room all excited. I'm just waiting. We're just talking, just kind of feeling out the vibe. I'm there for about an hour. Eventually, her mom keep calling her back and forth. I'm like, it's whatever. It's her house. I'll allow it for this time. But it's happening constantly. She's just going back and forth, back to her mom's room, back to her room. I'm like, okay, this might be bad, but I'm thinking positive. I'm like, okay, I'll just let it go, see what happens. Eventually, she's back with a grim look. I'm like, well, what's wrong? She's like, her mom said I can't sleep in the room anymore. I gotta sleep in the basement. I'm like the basement? Shit. All right, it's your house. I'll just let it go. So I'm walking downstairs this pit. So I'm like, wow, this has gone terribly wrong. I gotta sleep downstairs in the basement. I get downstairs. It's a basement. It has a couple of rooms, couches, and some. It's very minimal, but it's better than sleeping outside. Cause again, at this point it's probably 1 a.m. So I am stuck outside. So I gotta sleep anywhere at this point. Eventually I fall asleep, and then I hear footsteps around. Could have been maybe 2 or 3 a.m. I'm not too sure. And then it's her. I'm like, okay, let's get it going, man. And then she has a sad look. I'm like, well, what's wrong now? She's like, her mom said I can't sleep there at all. I'm like, what do you mean at all? She's like, yeah, you can't sleep here anymore. I'm like, huh? So I explained to her, I'm like, I kind of went out the window, so I'm stuck out here for a couple hours. She's like, yeah, I'm sorry, but you can't stay here anymore. I'm like, oh, well, it's fine, I'll figure it out. So she opens her garage and she gives me a mattress. I'm like, a mattress? What am I gonna do with this at 2 a.m., 3 a.m.? Supposed to sleep in the park with this? This can't work. I'm like, it's okay, I'll figure it out. Thank you. I'll see you soon. So I'm walking back home. I'm like, wow, this is my worst nightmare. Everything has gone completely wrong. So I'm like, well, what now? So I get back home. I'm like, well, let's see how to get back inside. So I'm just looking at it. I'm like, okay, what? The window's kind of open. I can kind of figure it out and trying to maybe scale the wall of Spider-Man and see what happens. Yeah, so I try scaling the wall, trying to see how I can jump onto something and get to the window, but it's way too high up. I'm like, man, this is bad. This is so bad. I'm in my garage looking for, I don't know, rope, a ladder, something. I'm like, I can't see outside. This is too wild for me. So eventually I'm like, well, this is game over. I'm stuck outside for a couple hours. So I get to my garage and there's like, it's so messy in there. So all they have is like a computer chair. It had like 2 of the 5 wheels. So I'm like, okay, well, this is my bed tonight. Yeah, so I'm on the chair right now. It's like 3:30 a.m. I'm like, well, what now? So I'm looking at my phone. Again, this is 2010, so there was no apps, no nothing, bro. Just all you can do is just send a call and a text. That was it. There was no apps, no games, nothing. So I'm like, it's about to be a rough night. So eventually I'm like, oh, I'll just wait it out, see what happens. So I just sit there for a couple hours until my parents leave. I go inside. I'm like, I'm gonna take my L and go to bed. So I guess the moral of the story, kids, is just stay in school, man. Just stay in school. It's not worth it, man. I snuck out my house, jumped out the window, broke my leg, came into our house. Didn't even sleep there. I had to sleep outside in the garage for a couple hours. Got no action. It was a huge L. Huge L. This is the first part of the story, so like, subscribe, all that good stuff.